Hi everybody, Fee Hills here on the luscious Monday morning to say welcome to Mastering Mind Nudging, unlocking the 3 essential pillars of scaling, mindset and behavior change. Now, I did set out to try and do this in one session, i.e. deep dive into the 3 pillars in one session, in the realization that actually it's going to take 3 sessions, but that's okay. So the most important thing is that we're sharing knowledge to really help you understand, I suppose, just the baseline of the methodologies behind mind nudging, and therefore how to create a mind nudging journey in practice. And these are really stepping stones. So really all I'll ask is that you bear with us, because it is quite a long journey. We've been developing this for 4 years now, and it's a combination of AI modeling, technology, the normal sort of software technology, and of course the methodology, which is based on EPIC and combining and blending different support mechanisms so we can speed, scale, and sustain. Now, you might notice this down the side of the slide there. And this is really our mission, to help you speed up, scale, and sustain mindset transformation and behavior change. So on that note, let's get started. What I have been able to do is deep dive today and arrange to deep dive into the mind nudging side. And so the next time I will do pop-up deep dive into that. And then the next time shared thinking pods. And I'm going to try and cover that really this week if I can. So what's on the menu today? Let's understand mind nudging themes. So it's a bit of a deep dive into that. Now, what I'm going to say is you're not going to be able to, or possibly not going to be able to just go off and design a mind nudging journey from these classes, which is why we've got the academy, because it is a huge shift from traditional learning to building mind nudging journeys. But what you can do is get a complete understanding of the approach, the whys, and basically how it works. So the whole process. And that's what I hope to cover. And if I don't, please feel free to comment and ask more questions, and I will cover it offline or online in comments. So let's understand the mind nudging themes today, and then the future ones deep dive into the other 3 pillars, as it were. I'll explain the 3 pillars in a second. What we're dealing with here is a mindset navigation platform, which through these sessions, through these sort of knowledge share sessions, really you're getting to know, because this platform is massive. So it's almost impossible to say, here demo, of course you can, and how you use it. But when you're involved in L&D and well-being, and you want to change the way you do things, you need to understand it at a deeper level, because you're not a user. You are very much, if you're an L&D or well-being and considering this type of sort of micro-learning, experiential learning approach, an iterative approach to things, then you need to understand it at a deeper level, rather than just, I'm using a technology platform. So that's what I hope to sort of achieve with these sessions. So really, mindset navigation platform, it's an all-in-one integrated platform specifically for L&D and wellbeing professionals, irrespective whether you provide or you're working for an organization who wants to, transform mindset and behavior. So what it allows you to do is build and facilitate mind nudging journeys in a very sort of creative and also measurable way. So effectively, the point of it is to help you scale and sustain, and of course accelerate the transformation of that. So that's the sort of mission that we're on to help you do. And I want to start by giving you context. I've shown these sort of pictures before. This is a sort of image speaks 1,000 words, which it does. So here we have a sort of blended learning journey, but I want to show you sort of 3 and then help you understand how mind nudging fits in a different way for each journey. So what is the mind nudging and how does it apply to your journey based on whatever needs you have? So here's one that is Tony Dane, and Tony Dane is actually sort of facilitating and running the psych safety for leaders. Now, what you've got here is you can see a mind nudging journey for the first part. This is a 12-week journey split into 2 phases, 6 weeks. So what you're looking at is a sort of blended approach, but what you can see is a mind nudging theme in each week. And that's what we're going to focus on today, explaining that. Okay. And then in between, you can see there's pop-ups and so forth. So let me just show you another one to show you the application, as it were. So this particular one is Fit to Lose. And that isn't going to be actually out on the market until the 3rd of June. But this one is completely different, because what you saw with the psych safety, not surprisingly, is for workplaces. So it deals with sort of not just leadership, but it deals with very much about B2B rather than B2C. Now, if you look at this, when we're looking at something called Fit to Lose, is a sort of revolutionary journey for weight management. So it really does bring that holistic approach, transforming mindset, allowing you to measure emotional well-being. Other words, Fit to Lose. You've got to be emotionally well, you've got to be physically well, and the whole approach is about measurability along the way in the physical side. So what is your blood pressure, etc., which is essential when you're trying to measure, weight. I'm going to say weight management rather than weight loss for a second. Absolutely essential for obvious reasons. But so is the emotional approach to this. So the way we do the mind nudging journey and design it for this is totally different, because let's say we were doing a pop-up session here, then the pop-up session would have to be recorded. Why? Because your audience isn't working necessarily in distinct workplace cohorts. Whereas in the psych safety journey, if you were doing a mind nudging journey and putting pop-ups in with this sort of balance of a blended approach, you'd probably do them live. And that's sort of the fundamental difference. When you're looking at how we design these, you design them according to the audience. And whilst that may sound pretty obvious, it does determine how often you do the mind nudges. It determines how often you do the pop-ups and whether they're just digital or whether you get people not physically, but you know what I mean, live in a room, and also how you run the shared thinking pods. Now, as I said, to everything is linked. So here's the third journey I wanted to show you. Again, this is empathy for CX. And the reason I've chosen these 3 is because they're quite different. One is dealing with leaders, B2B. One is dealing with B2B. Again, this is Tony's actually, and from Future Vision. But this is dealing with frontline. So again, you're dealing with a different audience. And they may not have the time. So there may be an argument here that, again, we may have to go digital in our pod. They can do it in between the calls or interaction with customers, whereas a leader may have more time. So that's just to give you a little bit of context. What does remain sort of concrete, if you like, and fixed is the vein that runs through these journeys is mind nudging themes. And each week there is a mind nudging theme. And the reason this remains quite concrete is because it's very much on the go and it very much doesn't interfere with our time. So mind nudges are effectively an experiential way of transforming one frame of mind or thought etc. at a time, at speed and at scale. So this particular sort of slide, where it says mind nudging themes, it starts with a process, and that process very much follows something that's really been alive for 2,000 years. So it's nothing we've actually invented, which is called the experiential process. What we have done is simplify it a little bit in terms of observe, reflect, and take action or adapt, okay? Which we design against this process because when we want to change how we think frame by frame, what we're effectively doing is, first of all, raising our awareness. Notice once we've had time to do that. And then from there, we can change iteratively. It's a very agile, whatever particular belief or thought or frame of mind at a time. So you're with me so far? The most important thing to understand about mind nudging, and in fact, everything we do at Mind Nudger AI, is that it's all based on learner-centered design. So learner-centered design is, let's put it this way, the opposite is trainer-centered or teacher-centered. And they sometimes effectively means, learner-centered design means that you're putting the learner at the center of the experience. So you're not the expert. So it's much more about, rather than the sort of sage on the stage, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with the sage on the stage, but we have to find the balance. And when we're looking at mindset and behavior change, we're really focused on habit change, etc. So this particular goal of transforming mindset and behavior, especially at scale, requires a whole new approach, and it requires a very blended approach, but it requires that the learner is at the center of the experience introspectively. So what that means is they are doing the work. You can't possibly do that work for them. So we follow the observe, reflect, adapt, or action. Learner-centered approach. And so in a nutshell, I tried to capture this with a have theme is one theme per week. And this wasn't just sort of a good idea. This is based on now 18 months of research and feedback, right? Where we try to do more than one mind nudge theme or idea or concept, let's say, per week, and the feedback that week to unravel that one theme or that one skill. Think of a theme as a technique or a skill, or I'd say that, or a particular frame of mind that's absolutely critical. And also remember that compounds over the life of time. So you might just do one technique or one skill that's the important thing, execution. But think of it that when you do that for 6 weeks, the effect starts to compound. So that's a sort of iterative approach of a journey versus here's a workshop and this is what you get at the end of it. So what is missing with that, it's not that workshops aren't good, they are. That's why we're carrying on doing pop-up experiential workshops. It's that if you don't find a way of embedding that post that workshop, then the execution is not there. In other words, how do I execute what I've learned? I might learn a model and think, wow, that's amazing. But I may not be able to go back and execute that because I don't have the mindset and do that. So this sort of missing link is really, I call it ritual. People don't like calling it rituals. It's think of it just as habit change, good old-fashioned habit change. To do this, what we're looking at really is more about not knowledge and more about than just application of knowledge. It's actually experiential knowledge, which John Hagel, I don't even know his work, but if you don't, look him up, is called, he calls it tacit knowledge. So the fundamental difference, the faster the speed of change, the more we need that tacit knowledge. 5 things: personal and contextual. This is sort of mind nudging design. Tacit knowledge, that's the knowledge that is quite hard to articulate. So they liken it, most people liken it, they use the bike riding. It's like someone can say, this is how you ride a bike. You're just not going to know how to ride a bike until you get on a bike and fall off, etc. By the way, I am doing a bike ride for charity for 500 kilometers, so I know this. But we won't talk about that now because we haven't got time. But do feel free to sponsor me. So the third thing is practical. I think that actually at the moment, practical is far more than just practical, right? It is that execution bit. So I learned something and what. So if I'm doing a psychological safety program, what matters is that I can go away and foster a psychologically safe team or environment, right? So that's what we mean by practical, is the implementation of that. Dynamic and evolving, adapts over time as we gain more experience and, of course, face scenarios, adversity, or whatever. Embodied, not just intellectual understanding. Now, what we found quite tricky about blending these mind nudging and building these mind nudging journeys, because remember, this has been a massive learning curve for us, right, as well, is how we get that balance between intellectual understanding, which clearly needs to be there, but being able to embody that so we can make it happen, especially as a leader. But I don't just want to isolate this just to leaders. It's all of us in our lives, whether we're trying to be healthier, be happier, for God's sake, or like lead other people, whether we're leading our customers. It's all of us. We're all leading ourselves, whether it's ourselves or our children. So when we talk about blend, you have to understand the component parts before you can decide how that blend works for your mind nudging journey. In other words, you need to understand your own subject, really. And then once you understand the component parts, it's really only you who can decide whether that's the right blend for your audience. Now, how are we doing for time? We better move on to actually break this down. Now, I just need a second to actually reshare now. Well, just give me a second, because I need to reshare to show you an actual mind nudging deep dive into that, if you don't mind. No one to help me here. Present. Oops. Give me a sec. Right. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing and then I'm going to share again. A bit of a coffee break here. Okay. So what I'm going to show you in a second, when this decides to respond, is a view of a theme. So this would be a typical weekly theme, and I'll show you how it's broken down. Again, that doesn't mean you can go off and sort of, oh, this is easy. Let me tell you, it's almost the simplicity of mind nudging that seems to make it quite complicated in so many ways for people. And in reality, it's very, very simple. But like anything, you need to understand it. So my nudges are designed against the framework. So imagine you've got a journey, like any program, you're going to follow a framework. So I've given a framework here that we didn't design. It's Timothy Clark's psychological safety. As it happens, with the psychological safety journey, it is using a baseline of Timothy Clark's, but we've added some more. And I know that Tony's done quite a lot of work on the actual framework. But suffice to say, let's look at this. Very, very simply, it includes sort of 4 pillars: inclusion, learner safety, contributor safety, and challenger. And then we break down to get the themes, we break down our framework, if you like, and we analyze it. And then we drill down to the thoughts, beliefs, and language skills. Each part of that framework requires. So, and then we design one mind nudging theme for each of the concepts required. I say the bigger concepts. I'm not going into AI at the moment. And then pretty much from there, we can build up the sprint or the journey. It's easy, but it's simple in its approach once you've got the mechanism. The other thing I want to say here is we have a design team, but we also have built, or rather the geniuses in IT have actually built the capacity for designers to design, and people who just like facilitating these sessions in L&D or wellbeing to actually use other people's design. So they're building an algorithm and a system and a tool that can make that work in the marketplace. So that's great news. That's coming soon. So not everybody wants to design. Some people are just great at facilitating, and some people say you have to design or you can't run a mind nudging journey. But equally, some people love design. So let me show you a mind nudge breakdown. So the approach to this would be, first of all, essential parts, a structure, context and knowledge. Going to put one proviso in there, right? You give too much knowledge in experiential learning and you've blown it, of course. Anyone that knows about experiential learning will know it's not interactive training. It is very much about allowing everybody to bring their experience, talents, and the human complexities that we all have to that learning experience. So the only reason for giving knowledge to help people understand what they're going into in a mind nudge concept, if you like, is because we need to give some context to it. So did you know that 30% of the population, blah, 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 and we might give some knowledge? What we're not going to do is give a prescriptive idea or outcome to that, because that is up to that's why it's called learner-centered. So we are giving some knowledge up front. I'll show that in a minute. And then it's broken down to observation and reflection and the platform that allows participants to manage their action and adaptability. In other words, accountability, but it's a little bit more than that. But the important part of the actual exploration part of this is observation and reflection. So remember that aura. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about ideation because we're going to run out of time. And I think ideation requires its own wee little session. So here's an example of day one of a mind nudge. Now, don't be overwhelmed by the words, because once it's in the system, it starts to be broken down into digestible information. But again, I've ringed the context and knowledge. You've got day one observation, and it's called tripod of motivation. So it's if you like, it's we call this a theme, and the reason we call this a theme and not just a concept is because we have concept pyramids which have broken the AI into much more tiny concepts from this. So that's why we call them themes. So just to stay with this sort of language, what you're looking at here is just the introduction. So this is, if you like, the purpose or the why. Why should I even do this, my nudge? What's in it for me? That's all you need. So you see, it's not a lot of information. That doesn't mean you can't add backup information or talks or TED Talks or whatever you want, or your own talks to the resource section, so people can back up what they're doing with a lot more information-based learning. But for my nudging, information is not the drive, it's transformation. So day one, here's the actual mind nudge. And what we've got is start by, it's guiding them into priming their mind for their time zone, participants I'm talking about now, obviously in their time zone, they'd be woken up in the middle of the night. So if you just think, got my 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the whatever time zone is set, and you've got your refreshment in the morning, maybe 2, maybe 1 minute, maybe 3 minutes, just depends on the length of it. Some of them are really quick. And then it's priming your mind. And also you can listen to it. So you've got a choice to listen to it with an audio vibe or read the instruction. But either way, it's an instruction. Today, you're going to focus on this, and then it anchors messages into the unconscious mind. On, if you like, consciously remembering to do this, it's trying to prime the mind. So as you go about your day, you can remember it, if you see what I mean. So it's priming the unconscious mind. Okay, so day two, I'd say day two, this could be actually delivered on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example. That is fundamentally up to the customer because it depends on logistics. So day two would be reflect. Here about this. Psychological safety for leaders. So it's thinking, okay, so how are my people? Do I make them feel like they belong, etc.? Do I make them feel like I matter? Purely self-awareness. And then what did I observe about me and my team during that time? So I'm now reflecting. So in experiential learning, you may already know this, of course, but the learning is in the reflection, not the observation. So the observation is a means to an end. I've got to go through an experience to then reflect on it. Does that make sense? And these are the rules. So what I will say is I thought, because we're sort of rather running out of time, we've got 2 minutes left, and I thought this might actually be more useful if I can send you a sort of PDF of the rules and things like that about mind nudging to your actual email or LinkedIn profile. And simply subscribe on the website, which is Mind Nudger AI, or DM me here on LinkedIn. So I'm under Fee Hills. So that's F-I Hills. If you DM me, I will send you and tell me what it is. If you have a question, great. But if you just want something sent to you, then that's great. No, you're not going to be put, unless you go and sign up on the website, you're not going to be put on an email list. So I hope that makes sense. Now that's a deep dive in, a little bit of a deep dive into what a mind nudging theme is. The next session will be focused on what a pop-up learning session actually. After that is going to be what a shared thinking pod is and how it's different from social media. So we're very much looking at social learning in the age of rapid change, as opposed to, let's say, social media. How is that different? So we'll look at the differences, because it's not just about sharing ideas. We've got to do it in a certain way so we get the learning, and I'm going to share that. So again, go to the website, and also to let you know, we do it on the 9th of July. I have a facilitation workshop on how to facilitate a very practical session, pop-up learning. And that's a 2.5 hour session. That one is a paid session, obviously, because there's only a certain amount of people can come on it. And if you want, again, DM me about that, and I will. So thank you very much for listening today. So sorry. And Heather's also say, Fit to Lose is the most unique way to change habits for weight management. Excited for the launch on the 3rd of June. I'm very excited about that one too. So thank you very much, everybody. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching it. Bye.